Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're gonna start the stream right up and cut the music. I didn't plan to have it on for long, so don't worry too much. And I'd like to introduce the other people who are here with me. I'm gonna unmute them one by one, actually. So let's go over to, oh, that's not normal. Let's go on over to here and show us who's here. So first, let's introduce Spirit Sales. Say hi. Wait, what's going on? I unmute you. Unmute. Unmute. No. No. Why isn't this working? Unmute him. Muted. M. What's going on? What's going on?
No,
Unmute
I had to
myself.
mute myself. Yeah,
Oh.
I had to mute myself because
That would
Google
do it.
Plus had.
Okay.
Google Plus makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Anyway, if you want to introduce yourself.
I'm Spirit Sales, and I have a lot of opinions that none of you guys are going to agree with.
That's a good one, I gotta say. I think KCM can unmute himself now.
I'm KCM, and I have a lot of opinions that Radiophone is not going to agree with. Spirit Sales. I'm sorry, I meant Spirit Sales.
Oh no!
Oh, brutal.
Someone disagreed with me on the internet. Oh.
Alright, let's do Kaylee now. Boom.
My name is KrazyCaley. Welcome to Not My Stram, and you guys are all going to agree with my opinions.
And I think we have somebody else. I think they have
No,
to
we
unmute
don't.
themselves.
That's it.
No, oh, that's
No,
it?
no.
I swear
That's
we
it.
had somebody else.
No, that's it.
Are you
We're
sure?
just gonna say a bunch of controversial things right now, and Wodar's gonna have nothing to come back at.
No, I'm just
He's
not
gonna
going
have
to
to yell
introduce
in the
myself,
chat.
and I'm just going to just talk. I'm just going to do this.
Alright, so the reason I brought you all here tonight is
Wait,
because...
we're really just going to ignore my introduction?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you said you didn't want
Wait,
one.
so
Do you
did
want me to
someone say
introduce you?
something? What? What?
Do you want me to
You-
introduce
You hear a breeze?
Yeah. So
So
we have
before-
our fifth member is the illustrious Wodar. And when I
You
say
guys should be
illustrious, I
happy
really
about
mean his
it.
beard is really nice.
That's the same thing.
I think it is.
You can't have one without the other.
Do you know anybody who's anyway, we should be on topic. So, I believe we're all here, at least I hope so, to talk about SpyParty, and the topic that I wanted to talk about primarily was mentoring and how it affects the game and the community. Now I like to go to Spirit Sales here because I know that he's the one who gave me the idea for this topic, and I believe he was talking about how mentoring affects new players and how that kind of continues, like it propagates what we already do. Do you want to go into that, Spirit Sales, or?
Yeah, I took the liberty before the show to just write down a quick speech, something we could go off of when we get started here. I'll just read it right now. I believe that there are pitfalls to having such a small community, and an even smaller amount of what I suppose we could call high-level players. Throughout the time this game has been slaved on by Checker, we seem to have settled on two familiar playstyles, hardtail guarding and behaviorism. Having only a few people teaching newcomers these two styles, it's possible to limit the development of new players, leaving them with only these two styles of play. Perhaps this matter is our own fault for settling into patterns, or the fault of the game for allowing us to use such limited options. But all the same, I'd love to be proven wrong by you guys.
So your basic idea is that you're worried that because of the two primary styles that we see, it's limiting where new players can go.
Yeah, I realize that more advanced players gladly tell new players to, hey, play this game for yourself, see what you can think up. But when a new player gets something wrong, a more advanced player would immediately tell someone, hey, try this, and it basically just continues from there.
One thing that I wonder is whether or not other playstyles are possible besides camping or behavioralism. I think there might be. I think, like you say, that we have not that many people in the beta, and especially not a lot of really, excuse me, high-level players who can, meaningfully theorize that kind of thing. But I think to some extent, the different playstyles that we have are a result of the way the game is built. On one axis, you have paying more attention to hardtails, and on the other, you have paying less attention to hardtails and more to everything else as a consequence. And you can hybridize it all you want and so forth. But I don't know, maybe from the way I see it, but I'd be happy to concede that maybe this is just because I'm seeing it from my own limited viewpoint, as are we all. But the way it looks to me is, there's that axis, and you have to follow somewhere along it.
Well, I think that before we go too deep into this, we should probably define some of our terms. Like
yeah,
what
that's
we
a good
mean.
idea.
Because theoretically, there could be people in this chat that don't play SpyParty and are just interested in what we have to say about it. So who wants to go first? Let's say, let's go with the easiest one, camping.
I like camping.
Then why don't you define it, sir?
Hardtail guarding.
Why don't Kaylee? Why don't you explain what camping is then?
Probably as the most hardcore camper player in the chat right now. Camping is basically the sniping theory that focuses on the hardtails. I'll just give you an idea of what I do given any given set of missions. So take as an example Courtyard 4 of 6, which might be the most popular game mode right now in the game. I look at that. Any 4 of 6 means I have to guard 3 things to prevent the spy from winning. I pick the 3 things that are the easiest for me to guard: swap, bug, and purloin. And I don't really pay attention to much else. I look at swap, I look at purloin, I look at bug. The way my style varies is how much attention I'm going to pay to each of those tells. If I get busted on one tell, then I might have to switch to a more behavioral style. Like if I see purloin is gone and I don't know who took it, I'm going to have to loosen up a little bit. But that's basically the idea, is I'm going to pick that combination of tells that's going to be easiest for me to protect, and I'm just going to spend all my time protecting them. I'm going to stare at the ambassador, I'm going to stare at the list, I'm going to stare at the statues, I'm going to memorize who's taking what books, and do that kind of thing. And I'm not going to pay so much attention to pathing. I'm not going to pay so much attention to people taking, maybe walking by the amba in a way that would be slightly unusual. Not going to look so much for activity, for flirts, for who the seduction target is going to be. So that's basically camping in a nutshell. Advantages being that you're obviously a lot harder to get hardtails off on. The disadvantages being that you're gathering less general information about the party compared to a behavior, so you're kind of being inefficient with your use of attention. You're laser focused on the things that you are paying attention to, but the party's sending a ton of information your way that you're not really taking advantage of. So that's my camping in a nutshell explanation, I'd say.
If I may add to it, disadvantage as well would be once the hard tells are done, and if you've missed the hard tells, like as sniper, if you haven't seen them, you've pretty much lost the game because you haven't put any effort into the soft tells.
I mean, like the whole basis.
That's on the extreme line of it. Like if you're somewhere, like you said, it's like an axis where you're not camping at all, you're not watching them at all, and then on the other hand, you're putting 100% of your time into it. If you fall in like the 80% category and you miss a hard tell, you've still got 20% of your attention has been spent on other things. So
absolutely.
Yeah. The whole point of camping is that for the spy to finish all the missions, they have to do something that the spy can only do. So it's very preventative. Saying like, you're the spy, I'm not going to let you do the only thing the spies can do, so you can't win. That's...
Yeah, let's, should we define, everybody's saying behaviorism is the opposite end of the spectrum. I don't know if it really is, but...
well, it's
another
different. End of it.
Yeah.
It's a lot more difficult to define than just, a line.
I do like to just throw out that I think like we label behaviorism a lot of things. Like there are a lot of things that we label behaviorism, but they don't really coalesce together nicely. And I think like it's like almost like a bad way of defining it, if you want to say.
It's just the word.
Like, there are a lot of things that go into behaviorism.
Go ahead. I think a fair way to say what behaviorism is it's analyzing what you suspect or what you think your opponent will do, versus what they like in the realm of things that the opponent can do. What of those things are they able to do, and what of those things will they do? I think behaviorism should be about, analyzing your specific opponent and trying to make decisions based on that. Like and then that falls into the categories of like pathing as well, because you see something like a really good bounce, and it's like a player could do that. Has this player practiced it enough? Is this something that they could do? And it kind of blurs the line with like soft anti-tells, like things that are you low light for because most likely the player can't do it. But like a hard anti-tell is something that can never be done by the player. But it's behaviorism is a bit too broad, because whereas camping, you can just say, I'm just watching the hard tells. There are just so many different ways to define behaviorism.
Yeah, it's
Behavior-
not quite as clear cut.
Yeah,
I think just the best way to say it is making decisions based on what you think somebody will or will not do.
so it's behaviorism in a slight way is our term for metagaming.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, the way I do it is well, it's more hybrid, really. I mean, I don't think anybody plays without
I was going
any
to say
attempt
that.
to camp missions. But like I do kind of behavioral anti-tell sort of things where if I see something that's really difficult to do that most players haven't practiced, I'll low light for that. And that's not really so much a player analysis. Like I'm not seeking out the spy. I'm trying to separate the characters from the ones who can be the spy, like limit the pool. And that feels kind of more like hardtail camping in some ways than something that like Viri would do, where he's just like, oh, this person went statue, statue, statue. Like, is that a highlight or a low light?
Yeah.
Which is a more interesting and much more behavioral base than what I do.
Yeah. Like two things that get both clumped together as behavioralism is first like finding anti-tells, like looking for if like the character does like some really good bounces on Courtyard 2, bouncing off the side. You guys know what I mean.
Yeah.
We don't need to define everything.
Yeah. So yeah, in Courtyard 2, there's this like big statue-like thing in the center, right? And and AI.
No, wait. No, hang on. I need to know more about the statue. Like, what are its precise dimensions?
I'm confused.
What's the statue of?
So the statues are turning.
Tell me more about the statue.
No,
I'm getting going.
No,
Go on.
Wodar, I'm actually very
right?
confused. What's SpyParty?
Okay. Go ahead.
God damn you people.
I was going to say, I don't think any player fits 100% on one end of the spectrum. I mean, even Caley would shoot for pathing sometimes.
Absolutely. Although to some extent, you can have camping that's not necessarily focused on the missions. Like, this isn't really fair, and I wouldn't even say it's accurate. But to some extent, you can call a player like, for instance, R7, a pathing camper.
Yeah, I mean,
Kind of like that's like all he looks at is that's totally unfair. But he spends a lot of his time looking at pathing, and he just shoots for it, and that's not necessarily behavioralism, I feel.
yeah. If you kind of think about a lot of players, they're all camp, but they just camp different things, right? Because that's really the only way to really play in a lot of ways. I mean, Viri camps behaviors. He doesn't camp hardtails, but there's behaviors. So I mean, there's camping for every style when you get down to it.
And that brings up the point. Is this fact that we eventually settle into patterns on what we look for when we play sniper and what we do when we play spy, is that the fault of the game, or is that our own fault for, just settling into something that we're comfortable with this game?
Well, I don't want to quite get into that quite yet. Although that is a very interesting question. I wanna ask before we get into all this, how do you guys mentor? What strategies do you find work effectively when you mentor, or if you do?
I'll lead it off, I guess. I mentor pretty frequently when I'm on. I think I spend about half my games mentoring these days, which is, I think, part of the reason why I have kind of an inflated win ratio. But the deal is, I try to let if it's a player I don't know, like the typical situation is, I've got someone with like, who's 5 and 10 in the lobby, and I'm just hanging out, and they challenge me, right? And no words, just like I challenge you. I'm like, okay, yeah, and I try to kind of let them dictate the pace. I don't try to like rush or like be really harsh about the mentoring. I'm like, all right, this is going to be a mentoring session. We're going to be playing with this handicap, this, that, and the other. I just try to like let them play at their own pace. If they make a bad decision, like picking like something that's going to keep me from mentoring, like pick BVB Ballroom as the first map, and I'm going to snipe. I'm like, this isn't generally a good idea, you know.
But isn't that what all the pros play, Kaylee?
Yeah, totally. But like, you know, generally this is like a beginner versus beginner map. You should probably try like A37. We can play one of these if you want. And then as the games progress, I'll kind of throw out tips. Like, you know, usually, you know, okay, I shot you there because you interrupted your statue animation. Here's how statue animations work. And so for really new players, most of my time is spent like, you know, correcting, you know, teaching those really basic things about the game, those little tips and tricks that, you know, are, you know, either you have to grind them out and find them one by one, or you have to, you know, read a comprehensive list of them, or you just have to find them out by trial and error. With more intermediate players, like someone who has more like a few hundred wins, then it becomes more about, I find, teaching sniper, like, because their spy has gotten to the level where they can put up a pretty good fight against almost any sniper in the game. They might make some pretty poor decisions now and then, but in terms of their, you know, their technical work, they're pretty good spy, but their sniper tends to suffer. We see this kind of thing happen where at first the spy is going to win all the games as total beginners. That's why beginner versus beginner is so heavily slanted to the sniper. And then the sniper kind of catches up, but then once you get to that intermediate level, I feel like a lot of snipers suffer because they don't kind of appreciate how important attention budgeting is, and they kind of have this kind of loose, I'm going to guard all the missions style, and they've got this really kind of general focus, and they're not paying attention to anything.
You know, I believe KCM wrote a post about this the other day, actually.
There are a lot of
And Kaylee wrote a book
differing
about
opinions
this.
in it. We that's like a that's almost like a different question entirely.
I guess it is. I apologize then. Well, does anyone else want to talk about how they mentor? Just you know, for kind of a good idea on how to gauge a lot of what we're talking about. Just, you know, brief.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's pretty similar to Kaylee. I guess I have a few things to add. Like, obviously, you start, and if they haven't played very many games, they pick beginner ballroom, and it's immediately it's just annoying. I mean, it's not their fault, but it's like it's almost like you run into the same thing every single time, and it so it takes a lot of patience to do it and to say, oh, you know, I got to say the same thing to this person that I've said to the other people, which is don't play beginner ballroom, and they can be really stubborn. A lot of times they don't even want to talk to you, like they don't type, because in a lot of games you don't type, you know. So you say, don't do this map. You say, do the other ballroom. It's better. And you say, do any 3 of 7, and then they do pick 3 of 7. So you have to, you say, no, go back. Now there's a go back button. It's amazing. And that's helped so much. And you assure them, like, hey, every single person goes pick first. And you say, you're not the first person who's done pick and not any, but do any. And they do it. And you say, so here's what's going to happen, because they've never played outside of beginner ballroom. And you say, you're going to be given all 7 missions, but you only need to do 3 of them. And, you know, and you say, just, you know, let's play a game. And you just see what they do, where they're at, how they play it. Most likely you'll catch them right off the bat for like a pathing thing. Like in 10 seconds, they'll pick up a book, and then they'll just start waving their arm around like this again and again when they're like 10 feet from the ambassador. And so you highlight them and you watch them until they're like, you know, 5 seconds away from finishing, and then you shoot them and say, well, you know,
You actually count down.
Brutal.
Yeah,
that is just brutal.
To be fair, I saw you a long time ago, and I wanted to give you some hints, and then you explain what they did wrong. And then as sniper, I do like this wall of text where I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the exact opposite of what you do. I'm going to do known 7, which means I'm doing every mission. You can watch just one mission and you win. And I tell them, make sure you hear banana bread before you shoot, because I can't win without saying that. And take your time and think about it, because this is going to take me forever. Like, don't shoot in the first 10 seconds because I can't finish that quickly. And like Keeley said, it's kind of an interesting process where the first like handful, like the first 100 or so games, is all teaching them how to play spy. Like, how does bug work? Why did an AI just swap the statue for you? Like, how did I catch a green swab? It's not, totally invisible. Like how do you walk, like missing pads and what you should do if you miss a pad, or like how can you avoid missing pads, and really, really basic stuff, mostly movement. Once they get that down, you can't help them as spy much, or not as much as you can help them as sniper, because then they just feel overwhelmed. They've left beginner ballroom, and now there's just like, how the hell do you play this game? And so it's like between 100 games and like 500 or 600 games, it's like sniper needs the most development. And then after that, it kind of splits off, and you can help develop them into the intermediate levels on both sides, where you play more competitive games, But yeah, I'd say you're definitely mentoring anybody who's got like less than 500 games. And wait, what?
No, just thinking about like, it doesn't matter what you're doing, you're mentoring.
Yeah, you're mentoring. And yeah, it can be taxing. You have to have a lot of patience to do it sometimes.
Yeah. One thing that I find has really helped whenever I mentor is because I want to use TeamSpeak. That's super big for me because it really helps me.
It's so much better to a new player to talk to them instead of giving them walls of text telling them, okay, do this, do this, do
Yeah,
this,
they're
do
a lot
this.
more
Don't
likely
do
to
this.
listen.
Never do that.
It just
Yeah.
I found that it helps a ton. It makes mentoring a lot less taxing when I'm like, hey, I don't type this all out. I can just tell you, yeah.
I do have a few rules. Like one rule is the second that on any 3 of 7, the second that they figure out contact, inspect, seduce. Once they figure out that combo, that on any 3 of 7, you're never ever gonna catch them. As long as their movement's not bad. Once they figure that out, I tell them, okay, we're not playing that anymore, because it's just it gets to the point there's nothing I can teach them. I guess with replays it's different because I can watch the game and go back in time, but without replays, there's just, if I didn't see him at any point during the game and it just ends after a minute, it's like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do now? So then you have to play something a bit more balanced.
Yeah.
Now, I think we've gone over a lot of the basic mentoring things.
Ooh.
Well, is any Wodar and Spirit? You guys?
I wouldn't be able to say anything you already said.
I could add just like 1 or 2 more points. I used to mentor a lot more than I did before when I was just an intermediate player, and saying like hello to people coming into the closed beta and helping them out a lot, right? And no, this whole thing just reminded me that I really need to revamp this post I made about SpyParty lobby etiquette. And I actually need to somehow put that onto. Oh no, I did put it onto Reddit, and just no one read it.
Oh,
No one read it on Reddit?
I know, weird, right? Yeah. So the whole thing. Sorry, I was just remembering that. Like I went over like saying like don't just invite a person to a game immediately. It looks rude and stuff like that. And like how like a lot of the rules of SpyParty that are not written down in the manual. Like how to actually use the lobby system. How like how to actually talk to a person, because these are actual people. This is not Call of Duty. We aren't just random people on the internet.
Well, we're not yet. I mean, theoretically, SpyParty blows up like Call of Duty, and then nobody talks to anybody, and that's the norm. And we're just shunted to the side, like we're the few people who create our own lobbies to be friends.
We're old! So old!
If you're wondering about it, Kaylee, I broke my glasses like a month ago.
That's awful. I know those feels too.
Well, no, because
still
he
works,
also has this like his headphone is like
And also yeah,
switched
I broke.
around, like backwards, so it perfectly mirrors, like it's like the headphone's broken on the
Yeah, it balances out.
right side. and
Yeah,
left
it's
side
kind
of
of
the
fine
glass is
actually.
broken.
Yeah.
It's a style of choice.
One thing I want to add, just before we move on, is that I think it's important to, in situations where you can't get on TeamSpeak and it's kind of just a random off the internet, to again let them dictate like the pace and how much they want to be mentored. Like you can't force it on some people; they'll see you as overbearing and just rage quit like after you win 2 games. I just kind of let them come to me a little bit. I'll throw out the tips like here and there, but I try not. I try to avoid the wall of text, like if I can avoid it at all. And I mostly just try to throw out a tip here and there that'll help them improve when they play players who are, more their similar level of experience, which is I think kind of one of the better things you can do to improve when you're new. But I'll kind of let them come to me, and if they want to engage me and learn a ton about the game, that's great. One of the best mentoring sessions I had recently wasn't actually a new player. It was Isaac, who is a pretty strong intermediate player at this level. And we got to really get into it I got into it anyway. I kind of did a verbal wall of text in that one, just because I was just talking about this deep level stuff. Like once you get a foundation built up with someone, where you guys are kind of on the same page about the mechanics of the game, you can really start to get some good information passed on to them. So I think again, part of what makes for an effective mentoring session is letting your audience come to you, knowing your audience, and doing what will work best for the player you're mentoring.
A good way to gauge how much a person wants to learn is if they, it's basically ask one question: why'd you shoot them? It's that simple. And if they answer that question, then you can mentor them. If they say, I don't know, then there's no point.
You gotta have a reason, man. You gotta have a reason.
That's actually really true. Like some people, they just don't give you an answer. Like, oh, because I thought they were the spy. And well,
I'm so sorry, Kaylee.
I had too many hours.
I really said this whole time you're trying to mentor me, but I just could not help you.
Yeah, Wodar never knows who he's shooting and why. He just fires. Like Wodar just rolls the dice and he's always right.
Yeah, we can't. Oh, yeah, Veery is another unmentorable player. I don't think he's ever going to make it to intermediate status. He's really
Veery,
good with his dice
why'd you
roll.
shoot them? No, they were the spy.
Well,
Veery.
insulted the dark blood god. This ornate ritual with the bones of my ancestors.
Yeah, you just rolled the dice
Dude,
bones.
and
They told me to shoot the spy, so I did.
I rolled the D100 and it worked.
I mean, it's all about what you guys said, where if they want to be mentored, they'll give you a sign that they want to be mentored. They'll respond positively to your hints. So you shoot them and you just simply tell them why you shot them. And if they ask questions, then immediately you've got somebody who wants to learn the game and who's interested in being mentored. If they don't ask questions, if they just immediately click next game, then they're probably not interested. I usually ask them or I'll offer a tip and then say, hey, if you don't want me, giving tips, I'll stop. And some people just say, yeah, let's just play. And I'm like, fine, that's fine with me. Some people learn just by getting hit again and again and again. But the best mentoring sessions I've had were people who just kept asking me questions, and I love being asked questions because I love to talk and I love to type. So I tell somebody something, they ask me a question, I answer it. They ask me a question about my answer. I love that.
It's good engagement.
Yeah, that's great. If you want to be mentored by a player, ask a lot of questions. Like you've got one of the top players in the game who's playing, with you for a half an hour. That's a lot of time. Chances are, they're not going to learn a whole lot from it. So just take that opportunity to, get everything you can out of it.
I remember when you mentored me, KCM.
I mentored you. I thought you were in the game before me.
What? No. What? How is it even possible? No. You're actually one of the first persons I actually played who actually had games, who was actually experienced in the game. And you're the person who actually forced me to do Seduce as a mission.
I forced you.
Yeah, Wodar hates Seduce to this day.
Wait, but let's put this in context because today he played 30 games on stream and he took Seduce out of all of them. So
He was biased against Seduce on gallery, irrational. I feel.
That's a whole different.
This is going to be gallery chat though. So.
But yeah, no, it's like when I the only thing I knew were the BVB missions. You were the one saying hey, why don't you actually try out the other missions? Because that flirting is a lot easier than swapping a statue or microfilming.
Oh yeah, I remember Well, I mean, I don't remember it being you, but I just know there are a lot of people who they leave beginner ballroom and you give them any 3 of 7 and they still will only do the beginner ballroom missions because they don't know how to do seduce. Inspect is hard because you have to toggle from swap to inspect. Like I meet a lot of people who they pick up a statue, they swap it, and then they start inspecting, and they're like, well, I can't inspect without swapping first, you know. And it's just,
wrote-
it's just.
Well, that's why
It
it's
doesn't
always
tell
important to tell the new player to try out practice mode.
But even so, it's like you want to practice just enough to where you can start to play and then figure things out as you go. But the game just doesn't give you any information. Like you don't know hitting Q and E to toggle between actions. It's just not intuitive.
Oh, yeah. You were also the person that gave me my irrational fear of the briefcase.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
not surprised. Of all people, KCM would do that.
Well, back then I was like, this is, I guess, I would say this is before Kaylee joined, but back then I was Mr. Briefcase, and the briefcase was a total mess. It was
Mr. Briefcase.
I was getting literally 4 lowlights per game at one point, just from things like pure anti-tells. If the spy is taking control, they can't do these things. And I complained to Checker, and then he broke the game even worse.
Oh, I remember that.
And it was a bad couple months, but then he fixed it. It's amazing now. But back then, yeah, it was like you didn't want to touch the briefcase if you were playing against me. You still kind of don't, but
I still never touch the briefcase unless I'm playing against someone who actually has like 2,000 games less than me.
free lowlights, everybody.
Woohoo! Free
Now,
lowlights.
this is the very important part of this talk show, which is how to beat really new players when you have over 5,000 games.
Dude, we should really talk about the known 7 meta.
No, I wanted to talk about other things.
Okay, so
This is actually a
mentoring.
tutorial on how to pwn noobs. It's very simple. Just
Actual mentoring thing. One of the most productive ways I know to mentor, and this is something that you guys may or may not have done, but anyone watching right now, anyone watching this on the VOD, if you go to the Spy Streams notifier and just look for anyone streaming on Twitch, and you see a name that you haven't seen recently, you go there and you talk to them and you type in their chat, and this accomplishes a few things. Number one, this is a person who's probably pretty guaranteed to be invested into SpyParty and to learning about it because they're streaming it. Number two, a lot of times it'll be a smaller stream. It'll be someone who's not, super accustomed to have a ton of people in their chat, and you're engaging them, and they're into it, and you're kind of communicating to them. Welcome to the SpyParty community. We're for people who will lift you up. We'll be like there watching your stream because we love SpyParty. We want you to be a part of this community. And here's some tips for playing the game better, so that you can put on.
I love finding new streams. It is the best.
Yep.
So, what's the difference between a player, and this is a question I've been thinking about. What's the difference between a player who has been mentored and say has 500, maybe 1,000 games, and who hasn't been mentored and say has the same amount of games? Is there a big difference between the two?
How many games are we talking?
I don't know, maybe 500 to 1,000.
I think in the end, if you have 1,000 games, there's no difference. I personally believe that mentoring is nice to get some like some small tidbits, some small fundamentals, like how to pass more correctly. But I mean, really the best way to get better at SpyParty is just to play games. In the end.
I have an opinion on that matter. I feel like there's a set of basics we teach everyone. Don't play known 7 ballroom, and make sure you make sure you do soft tails, because those are easier, harder to spot than hard tails. But I feel like after a while there just comes that point where you enter the more advanced stages of play, and when you get there, it's kind of just it's really I'm trying to find the word for it. It's really hard to define, and everyone has their own definition for it. And I believe that in a way, every player mentors each other because this is such a friendly community. Everyone learns from each other when they play. So after a while, it just everyone sort of.
I never learned from Bacon. Bacon can still just completely own me on balcony for something I had no idea what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, there's something that all AIs do that I don't, and he gets all the lowlights off of that and can just
Well, there's
Are we
replay.
talking-
out.
are we
Well,
talking balcony?
On
We-
balcony, yeah, balcony.
And against who now?
Bacon.
Oh,
I can't play against him on balcony.
we should leave Bacon out of it because Bacon like has this like set of rules which I'm not entirely sure actually, exist in the game. I think it's just like a set of rules that you need to learn how he plays the game. And if you don't follow those rules, it's like
But
you're
it
gonna get
works.
shot. I think it's more of those like a subconscious thing. It's like he's already suspicious of you, so if you like do something that he finds like kind of odd, he'll shoot you and say that's why he shot you. But I don't think that's the entire reason why he shot you. Like he didn't shoot you just because you did
Yes.
something that AI do 50% of the time. No, he
Bacon
didn't.
likely has the
No, no, no,
system
no,
he just
I have a
developed.
theory that maybe he spots you bugging and then waits a minute and then just shoots you
Oh,
and makes
okay.
up a reason
Yeah,
why.
yeah. So,
Because
I know that this is
Bacon's
what about to do
kinda
like bash on Bacon, but one thing I really hate that he does is that if he sees that you are the spy, he will not shoot you until you have completed all your missions. Like,
I haven't found that
Sometimes.
recently. He'll
He's
wait,
good.
Like,
He's
till
really
he's
good.
95 or he'll wait till he's like 100% sure, but if
But
there's
that's-
any other doubt,
No,
he
like-
usually won't.
no, like
the trick-
he's caught
the
me
trick to
bugging
playing
before,
the
and
trick to playing Canadian Bacon. I'm gonna tell you the trick to playing Canadian Bacon, and it's
everyone.
here
Stay
it
out
is.
TeamSpeak.
Stay
can
out
we-
of
can we-
TeamSpeak, and then number 2 type /mute. And you have to type the / before you hit enter. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And don't let him get in your head. You don't want to know why he shot you. You don't want to know why he highlight you. Just if you get shot, just deal with it, and you will play so much better because
That's an
I would
important
first
thing to
get
tell
my-
new. I think that's an important thing to tell all new players. Just deal with it. Come on.
Yeah.
Canadian Bacon's he's a fantastic player. And he's one of those few players that I'm actually afraid to play because he can totally wreck me. And what he does is he gets in my head, or he at least puts me in my own head. And when I'm playing against a player like that, the what I have to do is like form an adequate defense against it.
And that
and
defense
so,
is just
you know,
to completely ignore him.
I hate that I know what
cut
you're
off
talking
communication
about.
because communication works so well for him. Like he's not the kind of person to get agitated after a loss, but he's definitely the kind of person who will agitate you after you lose, whether it's intentional or not. Yeah, he's a fantastic player, but you need to like sit back, put some headphones on, just like not listen to him.
Listen to some smooth jazz.
I think you'll do much better.
all I would do was just I would get on TeamSpeak with him, and then I would mute him without him knowing it, so that he was just expending mental energy talking to me while I was typing, and I wasn't hearing it. I was just like doing my thing. I don't do that anymore because it's like borderline bad manners. But
Why
like,
isn't Kaylee responding to me?
I
It's
would
not-
like
was
to get back.
super cold, ice cold.
Yeah.
focusing.
I would like to
Yeah,
get
go ahead,
back to
John,
the
go ahead.
topic at hand.
Yeah,
Ideally.
right.
I know this talk show not about bacon yet. That's probably next time's topic. We might have talked about it
Next
too much
time.
here. Yeah, next time just all about bacon. Just bacon. 20, a couple hours just all about bacon.
We're gonna have a discussion on every single player.
Oh god.
Um,
And yeah, that guy
um,
KCM.
I would love to do that.
we're just gonna go down the leaderboard.
Oh no, don't start at the top. Start at the bottom. Let's see how high we get.
When we get to the bottom player, when we get to checker, I'm just kidding.
I think he's at the bottom yet, is he?
He is. He's
very close.
low.
He's at
yeah.
the bottom in my heart.
He's getting there. Can't let that happen. That's the Mark
Yeah.
machine check.
I heart checker. Heart checker.
Getting
So
back
one,
on topic.
one problem that I've heard about newer players is that they often play either how we teach them how like a map usually plays, right? How a sniper is supposed to play a map, or how a spy is. And I'm wondering
That's-
if you guys feel like that's particularly negative, or if that's even true at all.
That's the word I have trouble with, is supposed to. Like, you're supposed to play this way. That is the way you play this map. I feel like there are 100 different ways to play SpyParty. I just feel like we haven't really grasped most of them yet.
Well, I mean, there are some things to know about maps, like on what maps are very visible locations, like what maps you really would not like to, like, say, purloin the guest list, or like which statues would be a horrendous one to swap. It's these things that we say is supposed to is more the way that it makes it easier for you to win as a spy. I feel.
Well, it's like if there's no you're supposed to do this, there's definitely a you probably should do this because there are tactics that are proven viable and there are tactics that are proven not viable.
Yeah. I mean, like an example of that is my infamous banana bombing.
Which isn't viable.
Yeah, I mean, yes, exactly. That's the whole point. You like. Let me actually get into this.
Okay, it can work, but
You're
like,
supposed to banana bomb.
Let me get into this a little bit. So
Yeah,
the
no,
whole
absolutely.
point of banana bombing is to try to get into the opponent's head, in that they're not expecting multiple banana breads, right? So like it's all about getting them disoriented, right? So like you banana bread. So then they're going like, why is this person banana breading, and not actually looking at anything you're doing. However, the problem is that whenever you banana bread, you give them a bunch of really hard lowlights because anyone who's not in a conversation circle cannot have banana breaded. So unless we come out with a map that only has a conversation circle, this is going to be like completely unviable. Especially because also because when you wipe banana bread, you do a talking animation before the hand, and if you try to do multiple banana breads, you are most likely not going to hit all greens on all those banana breads.
I think.
So
I think it's one of those things that well, it is kind of minor, like somewhat off topic actually, but it's one of those things that is more viable at a low level when you can goad somebody into shooting because they have they have a lesser ability to determine whether you're finished or not. They just hear banana bread, banana bread, banana bread, banana bread. Oh, I better shoot because the spy is doing stuff.
yeah,
Whereas at a higher level, banana bombing has like a different function. You hear somebody banana bread 5 or 6 times, and you say, well,
This
they've
guy's
been
not
in a
doing
lot of-
anything else.
they're not doing their missions. Like, okay, they've probably finished contact and maybe seduction, but if they've banana bombed like so many times, like did they have time to visit statues? Have they bugged the ambassador? Probably not. And you can use it as a way to you can just grab a bunch of lowlights. So you can use it to stay a shot. If you are completing your missions, but you make it appear that you're banana bombing and just wasting the game, then that can work. It's kind of gimmicky, but it's like
even then it's really hard just because the whole point is that you give your opponent way too much information.
yeah, you give them way too much information, and in most cases, it's something you recommend that people not do.
So yeah, I'm getting back on topic. Like that's like a thing that like I've tried out and just does not work.
Yeah, but you tried it and you explored that space, is what you're saying, right?
Well, yes, if you want to take it that way, I did try to explore that space, but I mean, that's not something that like a new player should be doing, right? Much likely like chess or Go, you want to teach them like how to play the game, what kind of strategies
Well,
are usually.
I don't see anything wrong with letting them explore. I mean, is that bad, do you think?
Well, there's kind of a distinction between like what is the goal of mentoring. So I've actually taught chess and I've actually taught fencing as well, and there are things that work at a higher level that you would never tell a new person to do. In fact, you would try to make them avoid it. And so with SpyParty, I feel. Are there situations where even against a high-level player you want a banana bomb? I'm not going to say no. I've seen Wodar do it against pretty high-level players and have pretty good success with it. The whole goal being the banana bomb in that case becomes a misdirection effect rather than, a way to just confuse them. Like they're getting so many lowlights that they're not paying attention to what the spy is doing or what have you, or something like that. But you would never tell like a player with 50 total wins. What you want to do is banana bomb 5 times in a row. That's definitely in the book of like advanced tricks. It's not something.
Yeah,
you
it's not something you'd be
you
telling
want to
those 0-0 players.
Like so for newer players, you kind of want to strike a balance between here's the set of behaviors, of techniques that will put you in good stead among your peers experience-wise. Like if you take to heart these rules and these techniques and behaviors, you will do well when you play people at similar level of experience. But at the same time, you don't want to lock them into that set of rules and behaviors. They'll keep them from kind of growing as a player and becoming an advanced player, to put it in SpyParty terms, I guess. So that's kind of the balance you have to strike, I suppose.
Yeah, there's also this kind of discussion that there are a lot of different styles that can be played that aren't being explored. And I think that's kind of interesting because the extreme viability of camping and the sort of like hybrid styles. There's nobody who plays purely behavioral and ignores the hardtails. So it is definitely like a case of how much time and attention are you willing to spend watching any individual thing as sniper, and that's the only style that you can really say that there is there's dividing your attention in different ways, but you're still watching. And you're still watching the same kind of party. So I don't see the styles as being so segregated, and I can't currently imagine that any other styles will come out. The camping is just so viable that there isn't any real reason to create new styles for sniper. Snipers are winning, like 60% of the games competitively. Easily 60 to 70% of the games competitively, and until the spies start doing something really, really crazy that the snipers can't counter by camping, snipers have no need to evolve.
Do we actually
it would actually be a bad idea to evolve.
So here's the important question: is that a bad thing?
What do you mean by that?
Is it a bad thing that it's this way?
Well, in my opinion, I don't think so, because I think skill levels are still rising. It's like just because a style is predominant and is very, very good doesn't mean that it isn't deep in and of itself. You don't need to have like 20 or 30 different styles. Just having one or two styles and different ways to apply it and different skill levels for it, it's still it's still viable. Like KrazyCaley's played like what, you're nearing 8,000 games now?
I think so. Pretty close.
And there are plenty of players who are in like the 3,000 range who are hardcore camping snipers, and you outplay them, which means that the difference between 3,000 games and 8,000 games still means something.
I think so, and I think that to get to your point about camping being viable, to tie it back into mentoring, one thing that I do is I try to train new players like to camp. Because it's what I know. Me trying to teach someone to play behaviorally would be bad.
That'd be fun to watch.
It would be.
Okay, randomly shoot for path thing now.
All right. Now, based on what I know from Beery, what I want you to do is highlight this guy, then neutralize him, then low light him, then bring him back to a highlight, and then shoot.
So he would never expect
shoot someone completely different for Florida.
Exactly. But no, to get back to the point, so camping is, number one, a lot easier to learn, I feel. Behavioralism maybe, I feel like, has a higher ceiling, perhaps, than camping does. And that's why I think you see a lot of players who have been camping for a long time kind of transition into either a more hybrid. Like Drawn is a great example of this. Like Drawn used to play a lot more camper than he does.
Oh yeah, I was like only camping and it was lame.
Yeah, and he has really expanded. Like he's kind of grown dissatisfied with like that ceiling. He's kind of reached the cap.
It got boring.
And he plays a lot more behaviorally now.
Well, that's the thing with behaviorism.
Before we go on for one moment, can I ask you, for let's say low-lying someone, let's say like a BB goes off, right?
Wait, who are you asking? Everyone?
Mostly Caley.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
So banana bread goes off, right? Now you go low lights.
Yep.
Is that camping?
It's not the most camping thing in the world because technically you're not paying attention directly to a hardtail. You're gathering information. Although there it's not really behavioralism because it is kind of hard information.
Yeah,
For me,
exactly.
behavioralism is all about like soft information, like making guesses. Well, not guesses, but
Like educated guesses.
yeah, educated guesses about what this person is or is not going to do, what they can or cannot do. And banana bread lowlights are not really camping because it's not paying attention to a hardtail.
Exactly.
And they're not really behavioralism either, I suppose.
So there are like some things that we don't really have names for, like like getting hard low lights and stuff like that, because
Sure.
as we said, it's not exactly behavioralism, it's not exactly camping.
Definitely.
But like that stuff you can actually teach though, and that's definitely
It definitely is. It definitely is. Like me talking about the finer points of behavioralism, things that KCM like does well, things that Viri does well, I'd be way in over my head trying to teach that to a new person. I also feel that camping is a lot easier to learn and apply and is more effective for someone just starting out at SpyParty. And I think that like the rise of a player like Scientist, who I think is currently sitting atop our ladder, plays like a really, really hard like camping style, and he's relative to everyone in this, well, almost everyone in this chat, he's pretty inexperienced, but he plays a really, really strong sniper, and he has done it basically off the back of camping. I've heard him describe himself as more hybrid, but when I play him, he seems like he camps pretty hard.
I feel like he camps a lot of soft tells, like how fast you pick up the statue. Things like that.
Sure. Like, yeah, but he's still looking for those hard tells in the end. And I think the difference between an 8,000 game camping sniper and a 3,000 game camping sniper is how long that software has been running in your head. Because I like to describe camping sniper as like software running in your head that tells you, now you check the list, now you look at statues, keep staring at the amp, and it's this program running in your head that is casting the most efficient coverage over these hard tells that you can. And the more you do it, the better you get at it, the calmer you can be at it, the better you can recover from a blown hard tell.
The more you can chat with your opponent and talk shit about them with them in TeamSpeak. That's an important skill.
Give it to the voices in your head.
So that's the reason I like to start them on camping early, and not because behavioralism is bad. On the contrary, I think in the end it's better than camping style. But I think it's worse for a newer player to try to attempt because it's really hard to do unless you know a lot of things.
Yeah, exactly. Behavior, it requires a greater knowledge of the game than camping does.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, like if I can add for why it's great to teach new players camping, is because like in the end, what mentoring is all about is to get the player to continue playing SpyParty. And a way to get them to continue playing SpyParty is to have them win, because like no one wants to play SpyParty if they just always lose, right?
Yeah, but we don't hand out free wins.
I don't like that. See, I don't think necessarily winning should always be your goal in SpyParty. If you're playing like competitively,
look, I mean,
this is one of the problems that we've had in SpyParty for the longest time, and it's like right now finally starting to be resolved. Which is that nobody plays competitively. SpyParty is an entirely casual game. We've had like I think 3 successful tournaments now. 1 tournament before I joined that failed, and that's in SpyParty. We've been playing SpyParties for like 2 years now.
It's going to be about 2 years real darn soon.
Oh God. It's been 2 years.
Not just you and me, Drawn. I mean 2 years like.
I mean since the beta's been a thing.
The closed beta even was it April 2012?
Oh,
so anyway,
tell us.
we're looking at like 2 years and only four tournaments. One of them like barely got off the ground from what I can tell. It just kind of stopped halfway through, and now we've got the SpyParty ladder, which is encouraging competitive play. Casual play should be entirely around, just having fun, enjoying yourself, and trying out new things and learning the game. Even as a top player in your competitive and your casual games, you should be experimenting and trying to figure out how to be better for your competitive game. So when you play in the ladder, you're bringing your A game. But when you're playing, a casual set, you're just enjoying yourself and trying to figure it out. You want to come out on top. Yeah, that should always be the goal. You don't play to lose, but you play more to learn than anything else.
Yeah, this is something I wanted to say. Contrary to Wodar, I don't think you teach a new player to how to win, basically, to make them play more. I think you teach a player, hey, there's a lot to this game that you can learn, and it's a lot of fun. I try to teach them this is what you can do to learn.
Yeah, I try to give them more options. I try to tell them, like this is, how I play. Like Caley says, he teaches them how he plays, and that's, perfectly fair. You say, I like to camp the hard tells. This is how I do it. This is what I know, and this is what I enjoy doing. And I do that too. I say, this is how you camp the hard tells. This is other things that I look for. I want to give them a lot of options. I would rather teach a new player to think for themselves than teach a new player to do exactly what I do. I don't think I don't think I'm so interesting that there needs to be more than one of me. And if there were more than one of me, it just wouldn't be that great.
There'd be too many M's. There'd be way too
many M's.
We'd have to rename SpyParty, SpyParty, MMMMMM.
I mean, players can look at all the different options that are available to them. You're mentored by 3 or 4 people. You take what you want from each of those people. You kind of put together your own strategy on it. I like to give a player more options. I think the worst advice I ever got from a player was I'm not going to say who it was, but they told me if you want to win. I don't know. I couldn't hear that, but
You
I
said
couldn't either.
checker.
What? Did someone say something?
it was they
Did I
told
say
me
checker? Who said?
they told me if you want to win, because we were playing like any 4 or 5 ballroom. This was after I'd played a couple hundred games, so I'm still brand new. And this player was one of the top of. Well, he was a really high up player, and he said if you want to win, do flirt, inspect, BB, and bug. And he made that like a definite statement. Those are the 4 missions you have to do if you want to win. And there's no room for experimentation in
And
there.
it worked for you,
There's
right?
no room for thought.
It was perfect for every player.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, it just wasn't very interesting. It's like never swap, never transfer. That's not how you win. Don't do those. And it's the fact that it's just the lack of thought that goes into it. Like I want to tell this player exactly how to win, and I'm going to give them exactly what they need to be successful, but only at this level. It's like give them the tools they need to assess the situation, to learn how to do it on their own, and to decide if that advice is good or not.
yeah, but I mean, like, isn't that like very close to what we tell new people in like ballroom, anyway? Saying like, okay, here are hardtails, here are softails, here, do BB, do flirt.
I
do
never tell
inspects.
players specifically
I
what to do.
tell
I let them
that,
figure it out.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
never tell them what missions to do as spy. But I will tell them what missions maybe are most efficient to guard as sniper on known 7. Like, pick 2, like, I don't know, whatever 2 are easiest for you to guard is the usual thing I say. But I try not to tell them what to do as spy. I'll just shoot them, like, if they keep white testing microphones.
Yeah, and then you
whatever, and they'll get
explain
the
why
point
you shot
eventually.
them.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that makes so much sense. Thank you for telling me.
Yeah, the goal of mentoring is not to have somebody be good at SpyParty. It's to make them have the tools to learn SpyParty and be good at it over time.
Again, I think this is like a fundamental difference that we believe for mentoring is that I believe mentoring is to make the person continue playing SpyParty.
That's my goal too.
If they continue playing SpyParty, then they'll learn this stuff as they go on. As they reach 1,000 games, they'll learn.
I actually have a question that I want to ask you guys. Partially because it relates to how I've grown as a player and just in general what we've been talking about. So let's say that there's a player who only plays against one person for, I don't know, 300 games, right? Are they are they
What's his name?
like? Do you think this player is past the point of mentoring and that it won't help? Or do you think
No.
that they've been mentored by the other player, the singular other player they've played, and they don't need anything, even if they're very good at this point?
Not even remotely. I think one of the most important things you could tell a new player is, hey, play someone other than myself. You'll learn so much more from everyone.
Yeah, I concur. I think that like someone who's played like a game or only against one person is totally mentorable. I mean, once they get exposed, I mean, let's assume a pretty typical situation where 2 people get the game together. They, only play each other for like however many games, and while they're out in the wild, they're going to learn pretty quickly that the meta for against their one buddy is not going to work necessarily against the other person. Like we see this a lot with kind of like more high-profile people generally, like famous YouTubers who like upload the video or streamers who play live. Like they end up like you see like these crazy like the game becomes all about cast prediction, right? Like that's all the game becomes is like, are you going to be general this time? Like, or
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, and
But-
I like the Dark Days drawn when it was like me, Bacon.
Yeah, but I mean that's because you were the only people that were on at that time. What I'm thinking is
Right.
like a good comparison for me is when I logged on, I was like, hey, there's a guy with 5 M's in his name. I should play that guy. And he's like, yeah, man, let's play. And we just played for a while. I don't remember how many games we played at first, but it was.
Oh no, it was. This is actually a really funny story because yeah, this was like the 3rd or 4th day after we joined. Like I'm in the lobby because I played a lot immediately. I was just playing a lot of games, and Yeah, there's this guy with a similar number of games. I think we were like separated by like 30 or 40 games. Was in the lobby and we were like, oh, we should play, and that was Drawnonward. And we played like 50 or 60 games, and then I had stuff I had to do, so I left. And then next time I came on, he was on again. I was like, all right, I guess we'll play. It was just every single time I was on, he was on. It was like he was stalking me. I was like, who the hell is this guy, and why does he always want to play with me?
Why am I so drawn to him? Ooh.
It was actually
Wow.
it was cool because we learned the game together. Like the first time we played, we were playing a lot on Courtyard 2, and Drawn swapped every single game that he was playing. He swapped every single game, and I mean, all I did was camp swap because I was a brand new player. I didn't understand anything, and it was just swap and bug. And bug is impossible to track when you've only played 100 games. So it was just like, I'm just gonna stare at statues, and he just never got it, and he swapped every game. And it was really funny. And then the next day he like comes back and he's like playing completely differently. He's not swapping every game, and when he does swap, I'm not expecting it because he's not doing it every game.
And this was 2 weeks ago.
This was 2 weeks ago, right?
No. Except, yeah, that's accurate if you change swap to bug.
Oh no,
Ah.
Drawn became a much better player before he got to 10,000 games, and then he just started doing the same stuff he's doing when he's brand new.
But my question, I guess my question off that is,
Sorry,
do
go
you
ahead,
think
John.
a player who plays like that, do they have an advantage or a disadvantage playing at the higher intermediate high levels? What do you guys think? That if
What do you mean by that?
I
Like,
don't
where
understand.
you
the
play a
difference.
singular person or two, or even three, but just those handful of
I'm-
people around your skill level over and over and over.
Well, at our skill level, we can't help it because there are only,
Oh,
like
no,
a handful
sorry.
of players.
I meant
There
I
are
meant
only
at a low
handful
skill
of
level.
There's really there's
Right.
no room to go higher unless you keep
There are,
playing
like-
those same people.
There are like 30 players with, upwards. Here, we can actually look at the leaderboard.
Yeah.
I think
No,
I think
don't.
the first like 17
Shame.
players have over 1,700 games, and then after that it drops off. You have like basically a pool of like 17 people who are at the very least like intermediate to advanced, and that's it. Everybody else is, and I know there are a lot of really good players who are upwards from like 800 games, and so there are some really good players. I played somebody yesterday, I think, who has played around less than 600, and it was a fairly close set. I think it was like the final score ended up being like 16-10 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And
I think that's
Yeah,
due
and-
to replays, actually. I think that players are getting better a lot faster due to replays. Like, they're learning things like Twitch flirts a lot earlier. They're learning a lot of kind of technology that, you used to have to play a lot of games to get into, just because they're seeing things on replays, emulating them, and getting better a lot faster. Sorry to interrupt, Dave.
No, yeah, you're right. Like you said, a lot of that technology is available at a much lower level, and information is much more available. So that's really good. But ultimately, yeah, the leaderboard is 100 players. Only like 60 of them are even remotely active. Probably less. So there's really not a large community of competition.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
we are just playing the same people over again. You can't pretend you're not.
But those are the options you have, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think for newer players, it's a little different because I think if you've played the number of games that the people in this chat have, you've been kind of there over the kind of life cycle of a few different players who start playing the game, played it for a while, and then dropped out, or maybe taking a break, and it kind of rotates a little bit. And you get
Yeah.
players who play frequently for bursts of time. You get exposed to different stuff. If you're a new player who's played like a few hundred games all against the same three people, then I think you're pretty much at a disadvantage, like against the SpyParty world.
Well, you don't know the meta. You don't know what
Right.
everybody else is
Right.
doing. You haven't played them at all. But I mean, that's a really good way to learn the basics of the game, to learn what it is to adapt to an opponent. I think that's really important in all gaming, is that you play with one or two people a lot, and you learn how to adapt to what they do. So like just learning the process of an adaptation is a really essential tool, and learning how that process applies to SpyParty. So when you play a player you've never played before, after 100 games, you should have adapted in some way to their play, like tailored your own play to better playing against them. And you learn that by playing, one or two people a lot and adapting your play with them.
So, do you guys feel that that it's perhaps more natural to play against a singular person over and over, and not learn a specific metagame besides the only one you've known, or perhaps that learning the metagame is more important than naturally and slowly learning how the game is played by the majority.
Well, when anyone plays a game, when they join a community, they eventually find, a small group of people they like to hang out with and like to play with, and that's what's happened here, I suppose, in a way.
I think it's more typical to play against a very few
Yeah.
people when you're first starting, at the very least. I'm not sure it's more natural. Like, depending on what natural means, like maybe that just means typical. But I think certainly that's the experience for most players starting out, is they find a few people around their level who tend to be on at the same time, who are maybe their buddies that they start playing the game with, something like that. And then if it's a player who is pretty dedicated to the game and continues playing it for a while, then they start to get, I guess, more exposed to what other people think about the game and how they play it.
That sounded pretty darn apt. I think you nailed it on the head, Kaylee. Boom.
Like I said at the beginning, you're all going to agree with my opinions.
It's easier to agree with your opinions.
You're more eloquent than I am. It's almost like it's your job or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, in any situation though where a player has an option to, okay, let's say you have Drawnonward and Wodar are online, and two relatively new players log in with like a couple hundred games each, and you basically have the option, like both of them can be mentored at the same time, or they can play each other. It's better for them to play each other. They'll have more fun. They'll actually begin to understand the game on a more competitive level, because there's no competition between a brand new player and Wodar or Drawn-On. There's
What are
no
you talking about?
competition.
Like,
Yeah,
I'm
Wodar
always-
shoots with the roll of the die.
Yeah, well,
He's like, let's flip
it's a
this coin.
challenge to see just how quickly you can pad your spy wins. I mean, I'm joking, but seriously, you want them to get into the mindset of playing an evenly matched opponent, learning to adapt to their opponent, and they'll enjoy it more. It's a better game when played with somebody who you can compete with.
I agree completely, and that's like one of the downfalls with mentoring, is that like if you're mentoring someone and someone at the same skill level logs on, those two can't be playing anymore because you're playing them during that time.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
whenever-
especially like
once
this
you-
game, when it's so hard to find an opponent a lot of the time, especially for someone of that experience level.
At this
I feel
point,
like once you
oh, go
mentor, when you're mentoring someone, once you teach them the basics, it's kind of like, okay, that's all I can give you for now. Now go play people at your skill level. It kind of it doesn't leave them with a lot of options, because it feels like there aren't as many people with a small amount of games as there are people with a large amount of games.
Yeah, that's kind of why I wrote the
regularly.
book, because I feel like a lot of this information is not something you necessarily need to play a game against someone to learn. Like things like, here's a list of things you do and do not do in conversation circles. Here's how you return the briefcase. Like, this is all things that you can just read in text. Like you don't need to
but it's not as interesting to read in
That's true.
text, and it's also
Well, now we have
there
replays,
are no
so there you go. That's
repercussions.
more. We have
There are no
replays and streams too,
repercussions.
if you want to watch those.
Yeah.
So you read it in text, and you're like, okay, I'm. If I don't talk when the arrow points at me, the conversation will be silent, and that's kind of a soft tell that it's really indicative. But there's no punishment for it. You read it in an article and you just think
Right.
about it, and then you just ignore it because you're never
having the
going to
negative
spot it.
feedback.
But having somebody
for sure,
actually
for sure.
highlight only 3 people and say, after the first 20 seconds of the game, I knew it was one of those 3 people.
Definitely.
That
definitely.
we're never, ever, ever going to make that mistake again, or
It's
they're
programmed
going
really hard.
to end the
for real.
mistake.
Because there are
Um,
consequences for their
And
actions instead of
one
just...
thing that I do, this is more recently, I haven't been mentoring very much because I do this, is we have more new players are logging in periodically throughout the day, even if they just log in for a few minutes and then log back out. If they find an opponent, they'll stay on longer. If I see a new player, I'll say, hey, have you been waiting long? If they've been waiting more than like 20 minutes, I say, okay, I'll play with you. If they've only been waiting 5 minutes, I say, give it 15 minutes or so. It's usually like no more than a 20-minute wait for an opponent. And I say, if you don't find an opponent, then I'll play with you. But just sit it out, and you'll find a more evenly matched opponent. And they 99% of the time they do. If they don't, I start playing with them, and after every game I type /who so that I can see if any new players have logged in.
Yeah.
And if any new players have logged in, I immediately message that player and I say, hey, let's arrange something. I'm gonna kick my opponent out of the game, and you're gonna play with him. And I ask if they're both okay with that. If I see a high-level player playing with a brand new player and another new player logs in, I message the new player in the lobby and say, I'm going to see if I can find you a match, just sit tight. And I message the high-level player and say, hey, a new player logged in. Can you, maybe you can bail on your player and they can play each other. So that's what I try to do. I'd rather play matchmaker than mentor.
I
in
think
most
I think that's a
situations.
good practice. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
that's
it's
a good way to
better to
handle
have
it.
people playing each other. I mean, mentoring does help to some extent, but really, I mean, we all got here more or less. I mean, none of us really got mentored to the levels we are. I don't think anyone would say
What?
like I got mentored.
Yeah,
and
I'm
therefore
pretty sure
that's
we
how
all
I got
mentored
here.
Wodar.
I
Let's be
was
honest.
mentored by the Dark One.
I think we all
Ways
like got here to some extent just by playing a bunch of games, and I think that's really the only way you can really improve at the game is just play a bunch of games. And,
Exactly.
That
Getting
brings
back to my
back
original
buttons.
point is that mentoring, the whole goal of mentoring is to get people to play more games, to
Well,
have people continue playing
I kind of
SpyParty.
see mentoring as giving people tools to get good enough to get like intermediate and eventually high level play. Not quite getting them to play a ton of SpyParty, but getting them to see how deep it gets when I mentor.
Well, when we say more, we don't mean a ton. We just mean give them what they need to play more
Yeah,
and
but
enjoy
I mean-
themselves.
I mean, like StarCraft is a deep game, but I mean,
But StarCraft is also bogged down by just this high requirement for micro. So even if you know what you want to do, you can't do it.
Yeah.
And that
much like
that
SpyParty.
hurts.
Well,
No,
not even
no,
close. Like
not
the
even
mechanics
close.
for SpyParty are way easier to master than like really basic level stuff for like StarCraft.
Well, here's
Or
here's
first
part of the
party.
problem with StarCraft. You play it a lot and a lot and a lot. You play it like 4 hours a day. You're doing great, and you do that for a month. Take a week off, and then when you come back, you know what you want to do. Like you still say like, okay, I need to send Marines over here. I need to send medevacs over here. You know what's got to be done. You know the overall game plan, and you can actually get into the deep part of the game. But after taking a week off, your micro is so unpracticed that you can't perform those actions, and that's where I think StarCraft really fails at a casual to semi-competitive level. If you take like a day off, you're suddenly unpracticed and way behind. It's like playing an instrument. On SpyParty, you don't suffer so much. Like you're gonna have more goofy pathing instances. You're not gonna be unable to win if you have a better game plan. In StarCraft, that is a problem. In fighting games, it's not so bad either. You've got so you lose your combos, but you don't lose your game sense. And with a good game sense, you still win in fighting games. That's not the case with StarCraft. If you don't have the micro and the macro, you're not going to do anything.
I was just going to ask you about that, KCM, because you're the resident fighting game expert here.
Expert. I'm not that great. I never said I was good at them. I just said I enjoy
Compared
them.
to the rest of us, you're an expert.
I bodied him at Nidhogg a few weeks ago. Therefore, I played.
Oh.
Not Nidhogg.
Oh,
that,
what's
It
your
was not
question?
due to latency in any way either.
What's your
Okay,
question,
sorry,
Wodar?
sorry.
I don't know who would be the better player there. The latency just cuts
Nidhogg
down
is
the
just
challenge
unplayable
entirely. It's
over
like
the
So,
web code's bad.
KCM, have you ever done played it competitively in the fighting games?
I did play. I entered a tournament once. It was pretty gnarly. I'm trying to see if I can get my chops up to enter Ultra Street Fighter 4 and Evo,
So
but I don't know. What's going on.
I'm not sure when you entered this, but like, how did you practice for it? Was this a game that actually had like an online community?
The game has it has an online community. It's kind of hard to explain. I played a lot of like ranked games and I did okay. It was Blaze Blue. I think this is back when Continuum Shift was the game, which was lucky for me because my character was like really strong in that game, and like really really good. It was just broken and unfair, and I went. It was at this like local arcade because the local competition scene in Las Vegas is really poor. Like my friend lives in Austin, and they have an arcade, and it's amazing. And he goes there like every week, and there are great players there, like best in the world players play there. We just don't have like the local community, so tournaments aren't really a viable thing for me. But I did enter one. I lost the first round, mostly due to like nerves though. Like I could see that I should have been able to perform better, but I didn't because it was like a tournament setting and I wasn't comfortable with it. And then I won the next round and then got bodied by the guy who won the tournament in the second losers bracket game I played. It was the guy who eventually won the whole thing. But yeah.
So,
Is this...
Works.
sorry if this seems like off topic, but I mean, like, let me get to my point here. Is that,
Okay,
so
all right. I
the
was
way
gonna
that
ask if there was an on-topic point. It sounds
Yeah,
like
Yeah,
there
I don't
is.
know why.
Yeah. So like the way that you practice for like this tournament and stuff is that you played ranked games. Then what do you think like a rank system for SpyParty then?
I don't
already
know.
have that
It's,
in a way with the ladder, don't we? That's sort of our unofficial system for it.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, I really
ladder
like
is something slightly different. I mean more like you could get into a rank queue in SpyParty.
well, it's part of what makes like okay, well, with fighting games, you have 3 rounds for a victory, right?
Mhm.
So if you lose the first round, you have another round to figure out why you lost and beat your opponent, and then a third round to, continue to apply that or, counter, right? If a ranked match in SpyParty consists of 1 spy round and 1 sniper round, you lose that metagame. And
You definitely need more than just 1-on-1.
I think you.
This is the
I think
this is the problem with
this-
having like a ranked system for SpyParty. It's such a different game compared to any video game.
I just
really,
think it's
that
going to be really
having
hard to set up because you need to have a standard that everybody plays, and not everybody's going to like it.
exactly. You need a system for it that we really don't know quite yet. We have some inklings on the forums, but that's about.
I think what it's probably going to boil down to is you're going to like enter in, pick a role, so you're either spy or sniper, or it's going to flip a coin and give you 1 role, and you're going to play 1 game. And I don't think that's a good representation of what SpyParty will play like in like tournament settings at like a competitive level. It's just I think SpyParty works better as like the SpyParty ladder. You play about an hour and you get an accurate representation of your skill against an opponent, or at least how you played against them in that set. But nobody wants to enter a ranked game for an hour. It's difficult enough to do it in StarCraft 2, where a game lasts at least half an hour to an hour. And I don't really like that. Ranked matches should be quicker, so I don't really want to see ranked matches.
Like competitive SpyParty play can't really happen in 10 minutes. Like it doesn't really work. I mean, that's maybe one.
It can't be deep
really
and
lucky.
interesting.
Yeah, if you're really lucky, that's 2 maps. One is spy, one is sniper each. If they're like really
The
fast.
reason-
Oh god! Now you guys make me want to make a tournament of 1 shot to rule them all.
Oh
Where
god.
you only play 2 games.
Moving on,
Yeah.
like I want to
Oh.
get to another thing about.
I wanted to
the
say
distinction
something
between-
actually.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Spear.
I think the reason the ladder system works so well is because you go through every map of the game and you really get an idea of what these players do and who they are just in these few games. Instead of, yeah, it's like you guys say, playing over a longer period of time is a better way to play SpyParty than 1 game.
Definitely, yeah. There's definitely a balance. Like it gets to a point where you don't need to play 60 games of SpyParty
Gosh.
to have like a set, but I think 20 seems to be a really nice number. Like a first to 10 or a first to 11 format does
Yeah,
seem
that-
really nice. I don't think. I mean, it's all formatting kind of stuff, and those are minor, complaints. But I don't think the tiebreaker really works in terms of a ranking. I think that's kind of almost silly.
Yeah, the thing with
But it's hard to say.
Draws into any rank system, I think, because SpyParty is a very draw-prone game.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to say. It's very draw prone, and it's hard to say that you need to have an odd number of games because it's not fair to have one player have 1 extra chance on a roll.
Especially
No,
with
I'm going
sniper,
off
you
topic.
need
You get the extra sniper.
Well, I actually
But
kind of
you're
have
gonna
a
be the
question
winner.
that is on topic pertaining to this. Do you guys think that perhaps the ladder, the SpyParty ladder that Kaylee runs here, will promote new players to try and be more competitive with the game when there's actually a goal to be had with it, as opposed to before where it was just, kind of casual play that would evolve into higher level play?
I
I don't
think
think so because there's no real way for new players to get into the forums and see that there is a ladder.
Oh gosh,
yeah, the problem with the ladder
That's
is
gonna
that
be the
it
main
needs
problem.
more it
Heyo.
needs more word of mouth. It needs to be more than something that this small number of people in the community do. It needs to be streamed
right.
more. It needs to be given more notoriety. That's the word I'm looking for.
Almost as much notoriety as Spy on the Hill had.
I think
I
maybe
mean-
2 things could happen to get new players into the ladder, maybe. And number 1 is put a forum link on the front page of SpyParty.com. And number
why
two,
would we do that, though? That's a sensible
Fix that,
thing, though.
Checker.
and number two,
Make it easier to get.
I mean, no offense, Checker, but that really needs to get done because like that's part of like what's like keeping new players from saying things like this.
Here's
And-
part
and-
of what needs to happen. You've got this button down here. SpyParty. Well, where is it? I don't see it. SpyParty homepage,
Beta
right?
homepage.
The beta
You have
homepage,
this
yeah.
button right here, and when you hit play, it's not there. When you go into the lobby, it's not there. When you hit escape, it's not there. I better escape before this guy wants to play with me. But the point is, like, you've got this tiny little button that's probably the most important access to information that any new player could possibly have. It's right here, and it's the tiniest little thing.
Well,
if
in
you're
the
playing
bottom
in a
it says,
small
you
window,
know, you've
it's
read the
easy to
manual,
find.
read me in beta
Big
forms,
window,
right?
you
Yeah,
can't
and you
see
don't
it.
even know what beta homepage means until you mouse over it.
Yeah, and that needs to be bigger. You need to. I don't want to. Well, you need to get rid of all this red text and just say, read the manual, press this button, and that button needs to be as big as all of that red text, and it needs to be on every single screen.
Oh
And
my God, this button works. This whole time, I've never seen this button before. All I did is I
No,
have a
see,
bookmark.
even we've played several thousand games, whatever, those buttons, I
You're
don't
Learning
use
new
them,
things.
to be honest.
Learning new. Who? Okay, come on. Who else here did not know about that button?
I
Come
knew
on,
about it.
fess up.
I knew it was there, I just never used it.
Kaylee.
I knew it was there. I just never
I already
clicked
knew
it.
about it. I think the
also-
other thing you could go ahead.
getting rid of the other buttons helps. Like having one button to push to go to a link is fine. Like nobody wants to, I hate it when I'm playing a game and it says like, oh, do you want to read, the notes on this something? And I say, yeah, I want to read them. Click it, and it alt tabs my game and it brings up a fucking it brings up Google Chrome, and I'm like, no, this isn't what I want to do. And I click X, and I go back to my game. Having 4 buttons that do that sucks. So get rid of 3 of those buttons. I mean, I know it's nice to have access to the SpyParty Twitter, SpyParty Facebook page, and the blog. Like, those are great. Those are great.
But KCM
Forum is the
streams
most
are
important
important.
And get rid of those 3 buttons. More people will click that one button, make the
Yeah.
button bigger, make it more accessible, put it on every screen.
Give it flashy neon lights and a big arrow that says "click here, please."
So
Actually, be involved. in
Oh,
this
hell,
community.
let's get Warning Track to redesign the forums. Apparently, apparently he knows, and he's been talking about how he could do it easily.
He's
But
actually
he's
given
just
some
not
mock-ups,
wanted to
too.
get. He's not wanting to be like forceful for Checker, so I'm going to be doing it for him.
Ha.
Checker, hire Warning Track just to get your form straight.
He'll do it for free. No, he won't.
well, anyway,
You won't do it for free. You have my word.
He will do it for free, and if he does not, you can yell at Wodar.
Drawn, did you want to get us back on topic?
Oh, yeah, well, I mean,
I have one,
that's...
I have one more point that I was going to make, just real
Okay.
quick here.
Yeah.
And it was, in fact, on topic.
Oh, no way. First
This
time all
is,
night.
This is a kind of a comparative thing. And go back to 2 points that were made earlier. Number one, why do we mentor people? And number 2, like differences between SpyParty and other esports, for instance, StarCraft. I think one point that we have here is that SpyParty has a very different problem from StarCraft when it comes to retention of new players and things like, you can't even get into StarCraft because of the micro requirement. I think the barrier to entry for SpyParty is that the real depth and the real cool stuff about this game is not immediately visible to new players. New players who start playing this game come into it often apparently with this feeling about it that it's this really shallow game, and they like are shooting